architects there? They registered design professional? Because that's what the code says. So not just engineers have the, inspections. Architects can, because they're considered design professional. They think city officials inspect firescapes. And they come and say, hey, he said that tread, don't fix any more than that tread, don't climb up, don't climb down, don't walk around. He said this tread is bad, fix this tread so I can get my violation removed. Do city officials inspect firescapes? Nope. You only identify a violation, something that's suspect. The firescape must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. And when I say painted, it means more paint than rust. So if you look at a firescape that's got a lot of good paint on it and a couple of spots, that's not a failure. It's got more paint than rust. Okay? But you start seeing rust jacking in any connections, rusty tears in any connections. You see rusty tears coming down a wall by the cement. Is it suspect? There's your violation. Don't get on it, don't walk on it, don't do anything. And that's why this afternoon is for you to walk up to firescapes. And you'll be able to walk up to a firescape and write a violation based on what you visually see on the first and second floor. You'll be able to get so good at it that you can be across the street, and we're going to practice that this afternoon, and you can look across the street, and you only need two things as a fire inspector or a building inspector. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So a firescape can be structurally sound, has not been kept painted, and you write a violation. It's still going to get fully examined, yes?
You keep saying keep painted, that doesn't make sense in my eyes about painting. I mean, to me it would be nuts and bolts need to be sound and so forth. I mean.
Yeah, the lot, there's the maintenance.
Painting doesn't make sense.
Well, if you don't keep it painted, then it's not going to stay structurally sound forever. So if you don't paint it, you're not maintaining it. The code is very clear. Must be structurally sound, must be maintained, and must remain unobstructed. So I get there and I see bicycles and cans. You fail on that because it's fully obstructed. You can't put lawnmowers with and propane tanks underneath your firescape. Yes.
Yeah, one of the things, and I can understand her saying keep painted. She doesn't maybe she doesn't understand that's the end result for protection of all the metal is the painting.
But I do fire escapes, and that's what I do for a living. And one of the things I see is when I'm doing my fire escape walks and working on this is they have painted it 10 times. And then you go in to go look at it and it's a Swiss cheese of metal underneath it. It's very difficult to actually, somebody can go out and just go do a paint job and go, oh, that looks good. I see it numerous times, and what happens is then I'll go out there and then I'll go do an inspection. You just have to, you can lift corners and you can see the holes. Visually, after you've painted it, you can't see all the holes in
A witch doctor's
the
been
metal.
there, yeah.
Correct. And so when you keep saying about the painting, to me, it's just, you have, yes, you can see it's been painted, but you physically have to go out and look and see the Swiss, the cheesy pitted holes of the metal.
Sure, we're going to go through the
itself.
inspection process now, so that's good. So firescapes must be structurally sound and must be kept painted, right? So a lot of people start with, I'm going to get it painted first, and then I'm going to deal with the structural sound second.
Correct.
So what happens is, this is how it works. When you get bids out there, the owner gets bids. He's going to get the nasty threes, ready? A typical 5-story firescape will get the nasty threes. They'll get a price for $3,000, $13,000, $33,000. Now the witch doctor is going to get in there for $3,000 because the owner a lot of times will pick him first. He's going to show up with buckets of paint, some tools, and caulking. And he will magically make that fire escape look like when you get there. And the day he calls for an inspection, which he calls the structural engineers or the registered architects or the fire escape inspectors, he makes sure it's wet and tacky. So that when they walk up there, they're going to get paint on themselves so that they are forced to inspect it from where? From the ground. And then they have that document there that needs to be signed, available, because they're going to make $300, $500, $800. Got it? So that is a natural event that's happening. The confidence test that we're talking about, and that you already have a confidence test here. We'll talk about how to use the current confidence test and what it really means, and the new confidence test that we're proposing that we use nationwide, how that gets even deeper and asks specific questions that you can't have an opinion on. You have a statement, a yes, no answer. Okay? So when it comes to painting, after firescapes are being repaired, because now we have a repair document from a structural engineer, not a pass-fail, because those cost you this much. A repair report identifies Well, a pass-fail tells you what's the problem. It doesn't tell you where they are and how many exist. A repair document is a walk-back by the same engineer, and he's gonna tell you, because he charges this much now, and it includes 3 visits, he's gonna tell you where it is and how many exist. And that's where you're gonna get the bids from the vendors in the area. It says, oh, 72 treads, 12 supports, so many linear feet of this, and always with photographs. In today's digital world, you have to have photographs, right? And so what happens? Now, the vendor knows that he has to repair this. Now, when the vendor starts repairing this fire escape, he's supposed to repair and spot prime. Can he paint it yet? No. So he's supposed to repair, spot prime, silicone shut, right? With latex, paintable silicone, because you know what happens when you put silicone on connections? It won't adhere, the paint won't adhere to it. So you have to have a siliconized latex that is paintable, and the average life on that is 35 years. So you take any connection apart, railing, tread, whatever, take it apart, wire brush it, get all the rust out, prime it. A lot of times you have to use, like a Rust-Oleum spray primer, because it dries like that. And then before you put the connection back, what do? You grab your caulking gun and you caulk into it. It's gonna be messy as hell. And then when you squish it, what happens? It comes out. And then you know what you do with this finger? You goop it all around and you leave it primed. Because who's gonna look at it? Because you're not allowed to paint. Paint is the law, so now repairs.
I'm not, and that's not how we paint afterwards too, as long as we get our load tests done.
No, we're gonna get to the load, we're gonna get to the
Well,
paint.
you're saying that, I do my repairs and then I paint before, I don't have an inspection come out.
No, we're telling you what we recommend, so that
Oh, okay.
this is recommended, this is what is done throughout the country, so that there's a control. So if a fire escape is being repaired, who wants to come and look at it, that the repairs are being done correctly? The owner, who's paying the money? Do you think he wants to see good work? So when he gets there on a black fire escape, looking at brown spots, what's he looking for? Brown spots, they're either done right or they're done wrong. Can you hide anything yet? Can you hide rust while you're priming, just priming on a particular fire escape? Your city official will come out. The engineer's gonna come out. Now, if you have a 10-story, can he release certain floors because he's got evidence that everything was done correctly? Of course he can. But until the final, including load testing, because doesn't load testing destroy things? Doesn't it scratch things? Right? So when the fire escape is fully structurally sound, and there's been sign-offs by everybody who wants to look at it, not that everybody has to look at it, but anybody who wants to look at it, can they come out? It's been load tested or other evidence of strength. Have you ever used other evidence of strength? Are you aware that a full refurb eliminates the load test? In lieu of a load test, a full refurb on a fire escape, and I'll prove it to you today, that's what the rest of the country's doing, there is no load test. So it's not what's been happening, I'm just going to open it up, yes?
Yeah, I work for a testing company and we test a lot of fire escapes. The main reason why we load test is because engineers cannot see the connections. That's most of the failures that you showed us. You can't design a connection you can't see or re-engineer it. So that's why we load test.
Perfect, let's answer that right now. 95% of a fire escape, and again, we're going to cover this, is outside the building. And can you look at every one of those connections?
Well, you can look at the outside, but you can't see the
I'll get to
main primary supports because they're inside the building.
No, I understand. I'll cover it right now.
Okay.
And let's throw rocks at him. Don't throw rocks at me, guys.
Okay.
And again, this is done in all the other states.
Right.
So let's see if, and it's good. This is that conversation challenges. But we need somebody to put the hammer down and say, yeah, I'll accept that. Well, he's here. Let's throw it at him, right? So let's start first with a tread. If I have a tread, a rail, or a connection, right? And I take the connection is going to be an original bolt that's going to stay, that's 50, 75 years old, and it's either a square head or a rivet, and she's super tight, been kept painted. What's the only way that I can verify that bolt?
Removal.
No, load test.
A load test. Is that what you're saying? So you keep it, you load test it. How often? Every 5 years. Pretty simple. By the way, 100 pounds per square foot or 200 pounds?
200.
All right, just you're the only state that's doing that, because nobody else is doing 200 pounds. But God bless you. All right, number two,
We're in the lead.
We're pioneers in a lot of fashion in Oregon. Some good, some not
That's
so
the
good.
county department involved.
no, I know, it's okay, and we can, and so let's work with everybody so everyone can understand. So he says, yes, you keep it, so spot repairs require load testing, because you're gonna keep an original bolt 50 to 75 years old. Yes.
Question then, to get a certification, you have to have an affidavit to show that it's passed all criteria in the
Yeah,
city
we
of
know.
Portland. And I do believe the criteria has to be a load test, am I incorrect?
That is what the printed policy states.
So every fire escape has to be load tested
We
to
do
pass
ex-
through the
we-
fire.
But we do accept confidence testing in lieu of. It is not part of the written policy at this point. Some of us have had this discussion over the last, what, a year and a half now?
Yes.
It's been more than a year since my bosses and I have failed to talk about it, so, yeah.
Let's,
We've had this discussion too, it's pulling teeth.
Okay.
Yeah, pulling teeth upstairs can be difficult when you only have a short pair of pliers and you're trying to reach 5 stories. So, we're there, but that is an option, it's not spelled out clearly yet.
Okay, but at this point, we're not looking at the second option, we're looking at the first option as we're processing and communicating with clients, communicating with
Public.
the public, whoever we're speaking with at this time. It is at this point, our policy with the city is to have a load testing.
You gotta remember, the city of Portland is the city of appeals. I say that in my outside voice. So, if you picture that we accept a lot of appeals, and I've got a couple of folks sitting in the room here that know this for a fact, we deal with a lot of not necessarily brilliant appeals. But for you guys, coming from the industry side of it, if you were to look at this and say, you know what, this particular fire escape looks good enough here that if we just do this, this, and this, it's gonna be a lot cheaper, I'm gonna try and bounce that off of your development services and say, we wanna do this in lieu of the load test. If they say yes, you're home free. If they say, oh, you gotta take that through a building code appeal, which is their normal response, you end up spending, what is it now, Jim, $300 to file a
It's
bill?
almost 400, isn't it,
For
They
a,
may have jacked it again, I don't know. Last time I checked, it was 300. Their prices go up, ours stay down, we don't know what the deal is with that. You know. But that's a route that they entertain. Likewise, these smaller wooden structures that have a little balcony for the 3rd-story apartment, and it's got a balcony that's almost big enough for 2 of us to stand on without turnout. Those are anchored into wood. Do you really want to throw 200 pounds per square foot on that thing? Probably not. Again, that's where the appeal comes in at BDS, and they're the ones who are supposedly accepting those appeals, and, yeah. It's another
so
issue.
if I may, and it's exactly this, I'm gonna show you what the rest of the country's doing, and I'm also gonna tell you, this is back to you. Has some fire escapes through our group in the past been certified without a load test?
Yes.
Got it? So I'm gonna give you the information so that everybody gets the same rights. And by the way, did I back it up with a code? Or did I say, please accept it? Or did I back it up with code? Because the code said that it was allowed.
Yep.
So just so you know, when we started building this over 10 years ago, nobody wanted to do anything. They weren't even load testing back then. They were stealing things from Seattle, which I set up the Seattle program that they copied. And now we've made the program down here better than the Seattle copy because they did once and then they stopped. I haven't been back to Seattle since. They have the number 1 program here. Understand? So we're gonna show you that the options are there. The code supports it. A lot of times it's just somebody hearing it because nobody wants to allow you to do something based on an opinion. If it's written in the code that there's an either or, and if I show you either or, then they have to accept it. So a lot of times if there's lack of knowledge, they only do it one way. But as soon as you say the code says either or, guess what? And so the burden is on you to prove to them that there's other evidence of strength. I do it all over the country, guys. I've been at this since '71, since my dad hijacked me into the business. He's still in business today, and I'm on the fire escapes. You know how many load tests I've done in the whole, since '71? 6. Do I want to do more? Sure. As a matter of fact, go on a website called loadtest.com. I got videos of us carrying sandbags and doing cable and load, it's all there. Go check it out. But it's not where the main activity is. Load testing is not a refurbishment and other evidence of strength. That's what should have happened here. So let me tell you why evidence of strength is important, and then we're going to continue with this. Do you believe that every structure here that's 50 years old, 75 years old, has gone through, every 25 to 35 years, has it gone through a full refurbishment of the windows? of their electric, of their plumbing, of their roof, of their heating system, of the outside shingles or painting? Have they?
No.
That's the average cycle of somebody doing something inside a structure. You know what never got one of those cycles? The fire escape. You know what it got? Paint, if there was any left over. So some of these fire escapes in the rest of the country go through a natural cycle of every 25 to 35 years. They take out all the bolts and put in all new bolts. Guess what you get? That's a brand new line in the sand. You've met other evidence of strength. And as long as you keep it maintained and painted, the rest of the country says, you've put off load testing for the next 15 to 25 years as long as you keep maintaining the fire escape. And yes, we're going to connect it into the building. So, somebody said, I got a problem with the connection into the building. So, do we believe that we can basically guarantee to a city official that the fire escape, the exterior, you know, the connection. So I got a stringer, I got a tread, right? And I got a bolt. As soon as I change that bolt, and there's no internal rust, not surface rust, no internal rust, right? If there is original bolt, do I need to load test this tread for you?
Original bolt?
Original bolt.
Yes.
I take that tread out, I fully remove the tread. I clean both sides, I prime it, I inject silicone, which is, in some states, it's not even required to put silicone. But you have it on your, you want some sealant, right? Okay, so I'm going to inject some silicone in here, right? I got a brand new bolt. You still want me to load test this, or can I give you other evidence of strength on this tread here? He has to ask his boss. That's how he's doing it from now on. I ask difficult questions. He has to ask his boss using secret code.
No, it dinged at me. I have no idea why.
So if I change the bolt, do I need to load test this connection for you?
No.
Can I provide you with photo, video, or even just proof? Have I checked it's called other evidence of strength? Right?
Documentation of what you did.
Right, documentation, photographs, video. You're gonna walk it through with me anyway, because you need to do a final. So this is representation. So 95% of every fire escape, I can physically look at it with my eye. I can prove that there's no rust jacking, internal rust jacking. Any material that's deteriorated, I've sistered or replaced. Do I need to load test it? Now we have another part. 95% of the fire escape is outside, but now we've got this crazy wall, and I've got this piece of cement, of steel sticking into it, right? And I've got that cement pocket in here, and right below that one is another one where, it's this piece, and again, we're gonna cover this in drawings later, and it has this crazy through bolt that comes over here, and it has this plate on the inside, and then it has the inside. Got it? That's the guy I want, and I got a 100-year-old building that's got the veneer, and everybody thinks that the veneer is the structure. What's the veneer? All veneer is vinyl siding to the building. You know where the tie is? It's over here, right? But now this 100-year-old building, you start screwing around with these bricks, what happens? They fall out, and then I gotta put them back. So in conversations with the fire department and the building department, I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie. That's what we do in the rest of the country when the building's a piece of crap. You know what we do? We come over here, we put, let me get a 4x4 piece of angle. I'm going to make a mechanical connection here. I'm going to jam another, and again, 4 to 6 inches away from the original connection, so not right on top of the same connection, And basically what I do is I put in an epoxy bolt, Hilti, bring you all the spec sheets you want, and I bury this thing, because all of them are buried only 8 to 12 inches deep, guys. That's all it is. And I duplicate the connection, okay? And that's on just one. If I do every single one, I duplicate the connection because I can't get inside, I can't see it, it's 100 years old, it's 18 inches thick. And I walk up to him and I give him the information, I say, hey, here's all my data sheets on these Hiltis, right? And I say, after I do this support, do you want me to load test it? I fix the original so that stays, and it's solid.
Nope, we're good with that.
So the evidence.
I'm providing other evidence. So, and I make sure, because I don't make a move, because I don't want, the last thing I want is at the end, having my client have to pay for a load test, because right in the code it says, the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength, or a fire escape affidavit. That's NFPA. And FBA, yes. I gotta know your name, because you're the only one putting your hand up. What's your name?
Danya, my name's Danya.
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 I understand what you're saying on that, but with our 200 pounds capacity,
Highest in the country.
it's difficult to confirm that that will hold the
Who
strength.
says?
That's where the argument, and
An
he's
engineer will
using
tell
me
you.
as the authority having jurisdiction, when in reality, it's the BDS engineers. You guys are gonna be selling this to the engineers
Well, we
down
have a problem
there.
right now with the same situation, and the problem, but we don't know if we're gonna try it, but we can't, we have to still load test, because we can't tell you that that brack and that mortar is gonna hold a 200-pound pressure.
Evidence of the design, and it's probably gonna need to be permitted by BDS and inspected and all that kind of documentation.
Up
Before you
in
can
Seattle,
accept that
they have a hole
visually.
inspector. You just can't drill a hole. You have to have a hole inspector come out and make sure that the hole is clean before you put an epoxy bolt in there. And by the way, in case you have a problem with that, then just take instead of doing an epoxy bolt, ram it all the way through, put a plate on the inside.
Well,
If you can get to it.
Yeah.
No, we know, we know.
That's the other thing. And actually, one of the other twists that Cisco hasn't hit on yet, that is one of your old stories, was one of the very interesting buildings. They had done a complete refurb on the fire escape, absolutely great, but the engineer that was working with them said, you know what, I don't really like those connections that I'm seeing that are being the supports on there. Let's open one up and take a look. And they found out that they had this lovely veneer brick coming down here and the gap behind it. And this was the actual
Structural break.
structural wall.
Yeah, but they're never structured.
Water had gotten in here and rotted off every single one of the supports. So you gotta know what the wall is
Correct.
in order to sell our friends at BDS on what it is you want.
Well, you have
want
to see it, I mean, you have.
Yeah, so you're probably gonna have to open up at least one
Right,
hole,
you have to get your hand in there to see what's going on.
see how many bats fly out.
Or you can load test it, you know, you can engineer it or load test it.
May I ask the pointed question, if you ever done a prescribed method of repair, and just for belt and suspenders sake, done a load test after that to, as, you know, back up to the prescribed theory of repair? Have you done that in some cases
Yes.
ever?
Yeah, California did a
Has
10
there
story,
ever, has there ever been a failure after that?
never,
Okay.
ever. And by the way, if they make me build a new one, let me ask this question. If I build a brand new fire escape today for your city, do I
That's
have to build it to the 100 pounds per square foot, which is the national code, or do I build it to 200 pounds per square foot?
That's a good question, I have to check with our friends at BDS.
So there you go, it's the catch-22. Guys,
Well, it's the unfact-
does the bumblebee fly? Does the bumblebee fly?
Until it eats too much poison, yes.
The bumblebee flies, you know who says it doesn't fly? Engineers.
How old was that?
Engineers can prove to you that a bumblebee can't fly, on paper. So guys, if I'm building a new one, this is all I need. This is duplication, we're already, by the way, with the original in good order, you're not removing the original one, it stays. So there's 100%. You're putting in a new one, it's 100%. This becomes the master, that becomes the slave to the situation. So it's called other evidence of strength. So you can duplicate in lieu of, you can never stop the repair. You can't leave a blown hole in the wall. You gotta close that up. And as you guys know, in a lot of your structures here, you know, it's actually a 1.5 that comes through, that becomes round, you know, it comes down to a round, comes through, hammered, you know, this is all, it's one side, it's 1.5 inch solid, then it becomes round, and then they thread it, and they put a nut on the inside on a plate. It's a one-piece system. In order for this thing to fall down, the wall has to fall. If you load test a fire escape and the wall collapses, did the fire escape collapse or the wall failed?
Oh.
No. The fire escape brings down the wall. What failed? The fire escape or the wall? The wall failed. Now, if the thing shears over here, what failed? The fire escape failed. But if all of a sudden you get to a place where there's dead people on the ground and there's a fire escape on the ground and it has pieces of the building still attached to it, what do you say? When they're like, oh my God, you suck as a fire escape person, what do you say?
Effective structure.
It ain't me, I'm all set, I gotta go, somebody bury this dead person.
But you
Because
wouldn't
what
know that
happened?
unless you load tested it.
Huh?
You wouldn't know that unless you load tested it.
No, when there's but again, now, like he says, if there's gonna be a fine line where you're worried about a fire escape wall, then have that wall has nothing to do with my fire escape test because it's an independent test of my fire escape. So somebody says, we're going for other evidence of strength. So you and all the city says, well, give me a sampling of the wall so I can say that the wall is of this 100-year-old building. So it may be a two-part piece. To get other evidence of strength, you gotta do a sample on that wall and tell me how great that wall is. Great.
We're still testing. You're still
Right, testing the wall. Then there's no testing on the fire
Test a
escape.
system that includes the fire escape and the wall and a connection.
Like I said, Portland has its own way, 200 times everything, but you can. The rest of the country does not do that. No one does that. But again, the law says other evidence of strength. So I will come in and I would fight that. I would come in and say, hey, we're doing this fire escape, here's my client, and he's not gonna spend this much, he's gonna spend this much, and I gotta do other evidence of strength. Oh, you gotta speak with the building, I'll speak with the building.
You would have tested.
No, I'm just saying, I have the right to say, here's the law. It doesn't mean I'm gonna win, but I have the right to sit there and appeal it, and I have, and I've always won. I've never lost other evidence of strength, ever. It's not that I'm saying that I'm right and there's not gonna be some quirky, listen, if there's an act of God out there that's gonna put a fire escape on the ground,
Well,
it's not because,
we do get failures when a fire escape connection does look sound. We still get failures.
yeah,
So just know that. One test is worth 1,000 expert witnesses.
I know. But like anything else, there's to me, the way I look at it, the amount of activity that's out there that we have, I don't have any failures during all of the load testing that I've done. And I've also had no failures on all the other people that I've seen do load testing in the area. As long as the fire escape is fully refurbished or it's a sound fire escape, not fully, it can be spot repaired, I haven't had anybody come back. The main concern seems to be walls. Question?
Obviously, then the criteria you're talking in other states is different than what's required here then.
Twice.
As
The
far as
criteria we use to build it is the criteria we use to inspect it. And the code says either or. And just so you know, prior to this, for 50 to 75 years, they weren't using load testing or other evidence of strength. They were using your eyeball. And you guys, not you guys, but most engineering and architectural firms use the golden parachute that says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with the local code and ready for its intended use, which meant what? So that's not even in the code. You can't even use opinion, but yet people use this third. So I'm just telling you guys, you can go to either extreme. I'm telling you that there's only two options, but there's been really three, and they've been using the opinion as the most common one for 50 to 75 years.
And this is, I'm gonna interrupt you for a second, because this is a pretty good segue point for this little tidbit of information. Historically, City of Portland, we actually had a rather obese member of our office. Charlie was about 300 pounds. He would go out on the fire escape balcony and jump up and down. That was our original fire escape test. When I came into the office years ago, they handed me a 16-ounce claw hammer and sent me over to the Weatherly building. Scared the hell out of me. I started at the top, I came down. I had 3 steps in a row go out from under me. I was 7 stories up when that happened. We progressed from there to a 24-ounce ball-peen hammer, which could not be dropped as easily as the wonderful 16-ounce ball-peen hammer if you put it on yourself correctly, so that when you did lose your grip, it was still with you. It might pull you off over the side, but by God, you had it. We actually started out with a wooden handle, and we went to this one because it lasted a whole lot longer than the wood handles did. That was the last of us doing it before we went into the process where my bosses decided it was much too dangerous for us to be out there for free, beating on the fire escape for the tenant or the occupant. Yeah, that's there. We don't do that anymore now. You guys get the tag for that. As you can tell, one of the industry standards is now slightly heavier head, shorter handle. I get a much better swing and impact out of that one. But part of what we were doing when we were beating on the fire escape, in particular on the treads, if you heard anything off of a good clear ring, you hit it again and again and again until you finally broke that rivet out the rest of the way because it was a rotten rivet. and it just wasn't ringing true. So if you're doing that, when you guys are working on them, that's still a technique, a tactic that you guys can use. We've just been ordered not to do that anymore. And so now we're looking at it, we're using a lot of the pointers that Cisco's talking about. Jay, you've helped me with some of this stuff, and if we ever get that engineer's checklist put together, it's together, but the bosses don't want to approve it. It's actually very similar to what Cisco has on his form for things to look for. What are you guys looking for when you're, what are we looking for when we're going out and looking at it? We're looking up and going, well, that looks like a pile of crap. If it does, fix it. Have a nice day. It's time to test and repair it. That's what we're supposed to do now. But even with that information in place that way, we've had inspectors step out less than an hour after talking with me and being told, look at it. If it looks bad, don't go on it. If you step out on it and it looks worse, get back inside, don't be on it. So all you need to do is know it sucks. If it looks like it sucks, that's good enough. Yet that fire inspector lost 2 treads underneath him after being told not to. So,
With that being the case, let me expand upon that. So inspectors are all visual. So you see that the fire escape is suspect in any way, so it's all you're looking for must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. You can see that from the ground, and you can see that by opening up a window, opening up a door. Do not get on it. So like you said, ping pong, right? When it pings, it should be good, right? But I've seen connections that have rust in it that still give you the ping. But the way to understand what these hammers are as an inspector, I want you to take some fire escape tread out there, and I want you to say that the left side has got 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch of rust in it, and the other side is super tight. I want you to break this side, so it's going to should give you a pong on this side and a ping on this side. Is this a load test?
no.
This is a safety test for the safety of the inspector, and you should never be on it. You don't just throw away those hammers, because that's who's ever getting paid to walk the fire escape to determine whether or not he can even walk it.
That's my museum piece.
Okay, museum piece. So now when you walk up, you ping, and I'm going to show you a picture of what happens when you don't pay attention and what happens. It's not only what the tread does, but where the tread goes, because some of these treads fall and they start pinging through windshields and through cars, and they can hurt somebody down below. So when you ping pong, but here's the main thing I want you to do. Anybody who's an inspector, and I'll show you what you should have in a standard inspection bag, and there's more things. I want you to break one tread, because a lot of them will just break. As soon as the shaft is all rusted out, and there's rust jacking, the rust jacking has already stretched the bolt for you, so it's already soft. The rust that's in there's already eaten the bolt, so a lot of times I bring bolts with me that look like pencils, they come down to a point. And when you hit this will break. Now I want you in the same inspection as an inspector, I want you to take a tread that's in very good order and it pings, and I want you to shear that bolt. I want you to shear the typical size of the shaft on every tread in the US is 3/8. And I want you to take this piece, and I want you to shear that bolt with all the might you have. You are going to hurt your wrist. You're going to just keep going, just pound and hit. I want you to break both, not one. I want you to see the amount of ridiculous force you're going to need to shear a good 3/8 shaft. Shear. You're going to shear this. Just go crazy on that tread. Break it. That way you know the extreme of a good one. Because every now and then, clients will tell you, you're breaking my fire escape. And you need to tell the client, really, you think I'm breaking your fire escape because I tapped a couple of treads, right or left, and they fell down, that we're going to hurt or kill your tenants or the firemen. And you go like this to the owner. You say, take this hammer, break that good tread right there, and if you do, I'll give you a free inspection. And that owner is going to take this, he's going to start, winding up, and he's going to do, but you've already done this before, because you're going to see him pounding the crap out of it, and it's not going to shear. But you'll shear it because you're going to go crazy on it. Just keep going and see what it looks like to shear a brand new 3/8 bolt, and sometimes shearing an old 3/8 bolt, that square head, or a rivet. Rivet's even worse. They're like tempered stick. Shear a rivet with this thing. Pound to your heart's content. But every now and then you go, you by mistake, you let the hammer drop on a tread, and the tread starts going south. Yeah, guess what? So you have to know both extremes. So the pong. So when you go up a fire escape inspection, we have to we ping. Right on the front nose, you ping, 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 pong. Pong, 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 pong. Break it, wrap it so people are,
Climb over it.
yeah, climb over it,
Step on it.
put something on it to identify it, got it? So that's what's important. And and now you've identified a fire escape that has some issues. And this ping pong can be done to railings, but primarily it's done to the treads, because that's what you got. But sometimes going up the staircase, both the upper stringer clips and the lower stringer clips are all blown out. Sometimes you don't even walk this thing. Got it? But that's not inspected. Inspectors from the ground and opening up a door using your eyes, all you need is to be suspect. Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. If you see a rusty fire escape, you don't even need to write anything else. Just say fire escape has not been maintained, which is a code. Okay, so who else can inspect fire escapes? Fire escape inspectors. Let's look at the codes. This is other evidence of strength. So the code says must be examined and or tested. This is the fire code. Examined and or tested. So everybody in the past just examined, signed something, gave it to him, and or tested. What's tested mean? I don't know, it kind of, so all of a sudden the International Fire Code says, fire escape systems found in a state of deterioration or unsafe shall be repaired immediately. Depending upon the structural condition, a load test shall be conducted. This is New Jersey's code, fire code. So depending on the structural condition, so is it me, the inspector, or you, the official that decides whether it's going to get load tested?
Yes.
Me or you?
You could, but you're gonna have to sell your client on that. I'm gonna tell you to.
So depending on the structural condition, a load test shall be conducted. You know who's going to force that on me? If I don't make him happy that the work is done, he's going to force. He has the load test. Now, as a firm, can I want to do a load test? Yeah, I can load test. But if I say, I'm not load testing, I'm just going to kind of fix it. He may say, oh, want a load test. Now, can also a building official step in, even though he says, I don't want a load test, can a building official step in and say, I want a load test? So there's two people I have to convince that the load test is not going to be required. Let's take a look at the NFPA. The NFPA hasn't changed this. This is Life Safety Code 101. The authority having jurisdiction, here in you, but now you're saying the building's going to weigh in. Guess what? Two authorities having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape stair that has been shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. Which means what? There's an either or in 49 states. We've used either or here before things started going in one way or the other. That doesn't matter. I'll fight for it every day. Come and tell me no and tell me why and show me the code where it says, because I got an either or. And I think I have satisfied, and here's my structural engineer stamp on it saying it's okay, because that's what they want. God forbid you're an inspector of some kind, because, two people saying so, you can say, where's the stamp? And if all of a sudden you got a stamp, you're a little bit more comfortable with a stamp on it?
Oh, always.
So other evidence of strength usually comes with a stamp. So the city official approves it, the building official approves it, and even the engineer is now putting his signature on it saying, I approve it. 3 people are okay with other evidence of strength. International Fire Code, the building, the piece is too small, my thumb's too
Basically,
big.
the IBC says the same thing as the IBC. So.
Yeah, it says the fire escape shall be examined and or tested. There it is. Oh. Oh, man. All right,
I got a train one that does that too.
Technical assistance. What's technical assistance mean? What do you guys call it, technical assistance?
When it's too deep for us to dig into and we don't have the resources, we can have you go find somebody who has that knowledge and capability.
It's also made for new technology. What's that mean to you?
Oh, alternate means and methods is a wonderful thing.
So this exists. Is it brand new or has it been around? It's in every code.
Going for forever.
It's on there forever. What that means is that if all of a sudden we get into, solar panels, windmills, Tesla radio towers, so everybody gets free, remember that stuff that Tesla made that nobody's used yet, but free electrical, when that comes out, guess who he has to call on if there's some sort of a testing or examination that needs to be done? He has to call this guy. Until such time that there's plenty of these guys around where he doesn't have to use this piece. So let's see what it says. It says, to determine the acceptability of technologies, process, products, facilities, materials, and uses intended to design, operation, or use of a building or premises, subject to an inspection by the fire code official, the fire code official is authorized to require the owner agent to provide without charge to the jurisdiction a technical opinion and report. The opinion and report shall be prepared by a qualified engineer, specialist, laboratory, or fire safety specialty organization acceptable to the fire code official, who shall analyze the fire safety properties of the design, operation, or use of that building or premises and the facilities and the appurtenances. You know what appurtenance is? Piece of the building, which is a fire escape. So all exterior steel wooden stairs, bridges, balconies, they're called appurtenances. And if they're subject to the weather, do they have to be maintained? That's what the code says. So the fire escape is just the tip of the iceberg. You got a bunch of other stuff there that's going to stop falling and hitting people on the head, including flagpoles, signs on the rooftops, you know, that the wind is getting to. And then to recommend necessary changes. The fire code official is authorized to require design submittals to be prepared by and bear the stamp of a registered professional. Meaning, even at the end of this expert doing whatever he's doing, to appease the people above him, what's he going to say? He's going to ask for a peer review of who? A design professional to come in and say, dude, I don't even know what I'm standing with it. You made it sound good, so. Because a lot of times, some technologies is in advance of somebody in the general area even knowing what's going on. Okay? By the way, is that another? The code is very simple. Design fire escapes shall be inspected by a design professional or others acceptable to the city official. Did that explain others to you? What's other mean? Did that explain other to you?
Just
An other.
That one was cloudier than the ones we discussed earlier.
So the codes are, IFC, the IBC says, you must have the fire escape examined by a design professional, structural engineer, civil engineer, registered architect. Yeah, now you have, the architects kind of fall here, but every now and then will an architect fall into another? Somebody who has a specialty, somebody who's a specialist, right, testing. So another, that describes another. That's what New Jersey, which is out of all the classes I've ever done in the United States, 2 states that I do a lot of classes here, and the state of New Jersey. That's the other. That's what they put out to identify what is another. But who gets the final say? And even on another, what does the technical say at the very bottom that he can ask for the other to do? Provide a peer review and a stamp. So an other can be qualified by the city official once they've presented information to say, please consider me another. Got it? So in the United States, let's talk about others. How many engineers and registered architects in the United States? Does anybody know of any fire escape licenses out there? Let's get into others. There is one in California, Reg 4, done in LA. There's one in Boston, right? 2 licenses in the whole country. And sometimes these licenses will cross a state line. But my Boston license, I have inspected 375 fire escapes for Harvard for over 25 years. You don't think they have enough architects and engineers to stamp things? They've never stamped any of my documents, ever. In California, I had a bridge engineer who inspected bridges for the state of California, who couldn't sign off on fire escapes because he didn't have a Reg 4. And a Reg 4 is a fire escapes assemblies tester, right? And he's a registered structural engineer for the state of California. He had to go get a Reg 4 license, which is, by the way, if you ever want to copy a great system, a fire, because it's the fire prevention there, or what they call fire prevention there, and everything that's fire prevention must go through a licensing process. First of all, you start by introducing yourself with a $1,000 check item. You start with 100 questions that it's related to your field, and you got to get an 80. You got to meet the fire marshal and say, hi, do you have any questions for me? He's going to give you an oral test right there. You have to have 3 years of apprenticeship and work for a company in order to get this license. And then they're going to take you out to the field and do a fire escape examination in front of them. And then you got to fill out the paperwork correctly, because if you don't fill out the paperwork correctly, guess what they don't give you? An And then every 3 years, they ask you for another meet and greet, for you to hand them over what? Another complimentary, thanks for letting me hang in your club, membership fee of $1,000. And that's for every sprinkler, alarm company in all of California. Great income generator, so it's called Reg 4. So go online, Reg 4, and you know what they have there? They have a ton of confidence tests for everything. So they have every confidence test there. For alarms, you know, basically a checklist of what you should be looking for. And they have a standard form that you gotta fill out. Did they ever have a fire escape confidence test in there? Probably not. I introduced the confidence test, and then the confidence test, and introduced it like, whatever, yeah. Just recently, a checklist appeared. I'm like, do you think they sent me a, hey, thanks for the info, shout out?
Well, that's right.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's gotta be approved by Congress.
It's gotta be approved. All right, guys. Is everybody clear? Whether you agree to it or not, this official, the LA official, the Minneapolis official, the Utah official, the New York official, they have the final say on what an other is. Do you understand? So it's clearly stated what an other is, the documents and the codes. It's up to you as an other. So if an architect comes in here and he's a landscape architect, he's a design architect, you know, interiors only kind of thing, and all of a sudden he wants to sign off for his buddy, he wants to sign off on a fire escape, can you accept or deny that document?
No, I dump it on BDS, but yeah.
But others acceptable to you. So even an engineer who comes in, who's never had anything to do with fire escapes, can you question his validity? It says right on the code, all design professional or others acceptable to the building official. So the building official still needs to accept everybody that shows up, because he's got tenants on his mind and he's got firemen on his mind, and he's not about to play the game of letting a Russian roulette be the cause, right? So this fire escape, pass or fail? All right, so this fire escape actually got called because somebody fell through the fire escape trying to break into the building. The fire department, police department called the fire department, and the owner got a report from an structural engineer, got a pass-fail report, and then how did I get there? The secretary calls me and says, I don't think this was properly inspected. The secretary said that she got this document, and this is me after the fact doing my examination, doing a hammer test. And this is what the document came out. It said, fix these 4 things. And then, to the best of my information, knowledge and belief, you know, the golden parachute, fix these 4 things and I'll sign off on it. When I got there, this is what I found. The fire escape was condemned. Okay? There's another fire escape in Chicago, 150 units. And it said, come and fix a couple of bolts, paint the thing, we're good to sign off on it. It was like 20 of these fire escapes. So I said, you don't mind if I just shut up and paint it, can I just take a walk through? And I grabbed a few photographs, and I'll show you that in a second, what the photographs look like. This is the detention center for juveniles. So I walk over there, and when you first get to it, how's it looking? Good?
No.
As soon as it needs a paint job. Most people say, I just need a price for a paint job, right? You walk up to these things, they say, hey, you know what I need? I already got the wood stock, we already got me a paint job price. So how much for you to paint it? I'm like, well, can I just look underneath a little bit? So when I looked underneath, this is what I found. So until you get underneath, you really don't know what's going on, right? So this fire escape here, right? The ping pong test. Safety for the inspector. Not, you guys will never ping pong, you'll never get on fire escapes again. From the ground and from below, and from a window, must be structurally sound, must be kept painted, and opinion is all you need to write a violation. Inspectors, this is what you have to worry about.
what I'll do now is I have my red, and I'll highlight it in red, to say that this is an emergency life-threatening issue that UM needs to take care of.
Is it? Think that's dangerous? Got it, guys? An inspector puts their life at risk all the time when they're just like, oh, let me look at this fire escape. An inspector walks with his hammer and he has to tie it off. And when he pounds, he has to make sure nobody's below, because these things sometimes drop just one side. Sometimes they drop completely out of cast iron. When cast iron is the worst one. They have these microscopic cracks. And I was doing the cast iron 10-story and I went bang, bang, bong. The thing split like this, fell down 5 stories into a parking lot. I'm like, holy bananas.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much loose stuff is on there. You may be up 4th, 5th story, and garbage on the 2nd and 3rd is actually rattling off and falling. So we've only hit a few cars.
So guys, that fire escape in Chicago, I was pulling bolts off with my fingers. This is 1 inch worth of brush jacking, and this is the reverse. This was a reverse cantilevered system, where you had the system coming out here, and it had a reverse thing with a nut down here. Look at the shaft, all eaten through. And I called the manager guy, are you aware that this thing is, and I sent him the pictures. Guess what they did? Absolutely. Who painted it? The witch doctors. I called the city of Chicago on this. Guess what happened? Nothing, because
They paid it.
they painted it.
So did you want to take a break?
I'm sorry. Somebody should have rang a bell. Break, coffee, donuts, all the donuts you're not supposed to eat in the back, guys. It's all the rich or bad donuts.
Purely healthy, sort of.
And if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions for you while we're sort of kicking around some coffee. Don't forget to sign in if you're getting credits of any kind.
So, Teddy broke out.
Yeah, I turned the phone off.
Aaron? It is. And you are?